Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am your host, Walt. And today our guest is a battery charger, the Opus BT-C3100. So, what's the big deal? Let's find out. Here's our close-up, starting with the wall wart used to power the charger. It's a good-sized wall wart. You can see it puts out 12 volts DC at 3 amps. And then, of course, the DC connector here for the charger itself on the other end. The charger itself, we have some pretty nice springs in here. They move pretty nicely. You've got the positive markings across the top, okay, for battery orientation. You've got 4 buttons down here to navigate it. You've got the screen, pretty standard stuff, made out of plastic. Plenty of venting around, some feet in the bottom. On the back we have our DC input from the wall wart and a fan. As I understand it, there's something like 6 different temperature sensors inside of this thing, and that fan turns on only as necessary to keep the unit cool. So next I'll turn down the light and we'll take a look at what this thing actually does. Okay, I'm going to use an 18350 just for convenience. And we'll put it in the last slot there, and you can see that that slot immediately comes up and says that it's charging at 500 milliamps. Over here you can hit the display and you can see that it's at 4.09 volts and that it's put 2 mAh into that battery so far. It's been charging for 0 hours and minutes. And you can go back to the actual charge rate. When you first put a battery in this, if you hit the slot real fast, you've got 6 seconds and you can change the amount of current this is going to apply. You can see it went to 700 and then an amp and a half, 2 amps, and then now down to 200 milliamps, 300 milliamps, and 500 milliamps. So you can cycle between all the different charge rates you'd want. Once this stabilizes and stops blinking, you can no longer change that. Okay, that's locked in and it's going to charge, unless of course you pull the battery out and put it back in again. The other thing we can look at is that you have a number of modes. Okay, pressing the mode key, you can see a discharge, and that's not for lithium-ion batteries. That's for batteries that will develop a memory. This thing will discharge the battery completely, and then you can charge it back up. Okay, and that will help with getting rid of that memory that some batteries can achieve. Going back to the slot again, another mode is discharge refresh. That's going to actually discharge and recharge the battery 3 times. Again, this is all about getting rid of a memory that a battery can build up. Here we have the normal charge. And here we have quick test. I'm going to let that run. And there we go. It says you have 98 milliohms, okay, of resistance inside of that battery. That's the internal resistance of the battery. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. And then it cycles back to charge. Now, one mode it didn't show, and I'm going to pull this battery, put it back in, and again, this is one of these things you have to do within 5 seconds. There's your discharge, there's your refresh, there's your charge, there's your quick test. There we go, charge test. Now, that's a lot like your setting the current for the actual charge on a battery. You have to catch that within the first 6 seconds of placing the battery in. What that's going to do is that's going to completely discharge that battery, and then it'll charge it back up, and it'll charge it back up to the 4.2 volts lithium ion, and it'll actually record how many milliamps it's putting into the battery. And when it's done, it will sit there and flash that until you remove the battery. So you can put that in, walk away, whatever, come back, and it will show you, okay, how many milliamps that battery actually contains. Now that test does take a little while. It takes it discharges and charges at a rather slow rate, so that can take up to 24 hours to do. But you can get an understanding of the actual mAh, or milliamp hours, that your battery is able to retain. The other thing you can do with this is you can hold the display down for a while, and then the display will stay on and not turn off. So you can have it lit all the time if you care to, instead of having it lit for a little while and then going off. Then you can press the display again for a while, and it'll turn off when you let go of it. That's pretty much it for the navigation of the thing. So let's go talk about it. Alright, so talking about it. First thing I need to say is that there is only one battery mooch, spelled M-O-O-C-H, and I'm not him. If you're interested in batteries, chargers, that's the man as far as vaping goes. He puts out a lot of just wonderful information regarding batteries and chargers. He has a YouTube channel. I highly recommend looking him up, to better understand all of this. So, what I have learned about the Opus charger, all 4 channels in here do operate independently. You can have 1, 2, 3, and or 4, okay, at whatever current. You can have 3 at one current, 1 at another current. You can have them all 4 at different currents. You can have 1 performing a test and 1 charging. Okay, all of that is independent. The 2 slots, channels to the outside, are the only 2 that are capable of the fast charge, the 2 amp charge. So there is that limitation. You can only charge 2, okay, at the rapid rate at one time with this particular charger. I did a number of tests on the charger, and not too many I could do, but I did verify that it is reading the voltages and the charging currents correctly. In addition to what other battery chargers, what most other battery chargers do, this one does have a few different options. Number 1, of course, is being able to set different currents. I like to use a 1 amp charge. A 1 amp versus a 2 amp will make your batteries last longer over the full lifetime of the battery. And it also has a couple tests. Now, there are a couple tests in here that are not necessarily advantageous to us as vapors, okay, and that's the 2 different functions that work on diminishing a battery's memory. Although if you have other batteries that you want to charge, and that's that's a concern, it's there for you to use. The 2 tests that are applicable to vaping, of course, is the internal resistance test and the charge test. Now, it is interesting to point out that neither of these tests, okay, are go-no-go tests. In other words, there's no particular resistance, internal resistance, that, oh my God, it's now dead, okay, or it's now no good. Okay, that's not how this whole thing works. The best way to take a look at that is, take a look at a few of your new, let's say LG HG2s, okay, and get an understanding, about where that internal resistance is. There can be some variance, okay, but they'll all kind of settle into the same area new. And then as you see these things rise, you know that, okay, they're not able to put out as much current because more of that current is actually being dissipated internally. And taking a look at this, you can also kind of assess, okay, how your marriages are doing, so to speak. In other words, if you married a couple batteries and they were both at 33 milliohms when you first married them, and then 6 months down the road, okay, one of those is at 100 milliamps or something like that. Okay, that's a fairly significant difference. You might want to look at relegating those particular batteries to being single batteries. Okay, and purpose another married pair. Testing the charge capacitance, I was surprised. It really did come out pretty doggone close to what most batteries claimed, or at least what Mooch, okay, publishes as far as what a battery will hold. So, yeah, you've got something here, that can, assist you in understanding, how your batteries are doing, what kind of condition they're in. To me, that is huge. I have a lot of batteries, that I'm cycling all the time, and I run into a problem with, maybe one of the mods where, one of the batteries, you've got the two indicators on the mod, and one of the indicators is going down a lot faster than the other. And what is that? Is that the mod? Is that a connection someplace? Is it the battery? What's going on? Well, with the assistance of this charger, okay, these are things that I can figure out and find out where the problem is and do what I need to do to correct it. So it is something that a charger or a charger like this, okay, with similar tests, is something that I'd advocate getting as a vapor. Battery safety is optimal as far as a concern, and not something to be really taken lightly. The only thing that this charger doesn't do that I would like to see it do is I would also like to see, okay, the ability to set the charge voltage. In other words, in many cases, I would just as soon charge to 4 volts rather than 4.2 volts. Okay, there again, sacrificing a little bit of, that one cycle of the battery inside of a mod, but overall extending the battery life. In other words, the number of recharge cycles that it will go through without, giving me problems or, having to replace them, obviously. So, I guess I'm hoping that's all I have to say. There really is a lot to say about this. Like I say, it's, but at least you've got an idea of what it can do, the additional testing that it can do, the versatility as far as, how it can charge with, different current rates. The versatility as to how it can charge between the different bays. Okay, so we'll let it go. Hope to see you again soon. Thanks for watching as always. Later.